We've seen what we were, now what God did. Our state in sin was so helpless that it required a dramatic divine intervention. And so in verse 4 we read, "But God." Martin Lloyd-Jones has said, praise God for the buts in the Bible. But God, being rich in mercy. The word rich here means being fabulously wealthy. And mercy means to have pity upon those who are in distress and to be moved with compassion and with tenderness and feelings of deep emotion towards those who are under His wrath. God is not a stoic sovereign. He is a God who is rich in mercy. And because of His great love, His exceedingly vast love by which He loved us. And we just heard in the first message all about this love. It's electing love and predestinating love. It is redeeming love and forgiving love and sealing love. Because of the great love with which He loved us, even when we were dead in our transgressions. And Paul circles back to what he said at the beginning of verse 1, just to reinforce how bad it was for us before we became a Christian. Even when we were dead in our transgressions, God did three things for us. God made us alive together. This refers to the doctrine of regeneration. This refers to the truth of the new birth, which is likened unto a spiritual resurrection of those who are dead in trespasses and sins to suddenly be made to come alive. And what I want you to note is there is only one agent, only one active agent. The subject of this is back in verse 4. God. But God made us alive together. And this is the truth of what is known as monergistic regeneration. Mono speaks of one, and erge speaks of activity or working or action. Monergistic means there is only one active agent that is at work in the new birth, and that is God and God alone. God by Himself and for Himself made us alive together with Christ. And as Christ was raised from the dead following His death upon the cross, even so that very same resurrection power has raised us from the grave of sin and made us alive together with Christ. And Paul now says, by grace you have been saved. All of this by the grace of God, the unmerited favor of God's mercy being bestowed upon us. By grace you have been saved. And we have to ask the question, saved from what? The answer is at the end of verse 3. We were children of wrath. We were doomed for eternal destruction. We were on the broad path headed for eternal perdition. And God intervened. And God has saved us. God has saved us from Himself. Salvation is from God, by God, for God. We have been saved from the wrath of God. We are saved by the grace of God, and we are saved for the glory of God. Salvation is totally, completely God-centered,